In a limestone hillside in Austria, in the summer of 1908, a workman's shovel struck something small and unexpectedly heavy. He brushed away the dirt and found a woman carved from stone, small enough to close a fist around. Her arms were thin, almost an afterthought. Her face had no features at all, no eyes, no mouth, nothing to make her a person instead of a symbol. But her belly curved outward in soft, deliberate folds. Her thighs were wide and heavy, carved with more care than any other part of her body. She had been shaped this way more than 25,000 years ago, by hands belonging to people who hunted mammoths across frozen plains, and who, more often than not, did not know where their next meal was coming from. So here is a question that sounds almost impossible to answer. Could a human being, deep in the Ice Age, surrounded by cold and hunger and constant danger, actually become fat? And if the answer is yes, what would that have meant to the people around them? To understand it, you have to stop thinking about statistics and start imagining a single night. Picture a woman crouched at the mouth of a cave as the light fails, waiting for hunters who left 3 days ago and haven't returned. Her children are pressed against her for warmth. There is a little dried meat left, not enough, and she is rationing it in her mind before she even touches it. Somewhere out on the tundra, the hunters are trailing a wounded bison through snow that erases its tracks within hours. If they fail, this family eats bark and roots until the next attempt. If they succeed, everyone gorges, not out of greed, but because a body that has just survived a famine doesn't know when the next one is coming. And some deep, ancient instinct says, eat everything, store everything, waste nothing. That instinct has a name now. Scientists call it the thrifty gene hypothesis, first proposed in the 1960s. The idea that human bodies which survived repeated famine became extraordinarily efficient at storing fat and refusing to release it. It sounds clinical, but it was never abstract. It was the difference between a mother who made it through winter and one who didn't. A body that hoarded fat wasn't lazy or excessive. It was armored. But here's the part almost no one considers. Having a body built to store fat and actually getting the chance to store it are two completely different things. For nearly every person who ever lived in that world, calories were something you fought for, walked for, froze for. The thrifty body was loaded, ready, waiting, and the world almost never gave it enough to work with. Which means that carved woman in Austria wasn't just an artistic choice. She may have been something closer to a miracle rendered in stone, a body so well fed it made it out the other side of hunger, kept its reserves, and lived to be worshipped for it. Now travel forward more than 20,000 years, to a very different kind of danger. Not the tundra, but the heat and dust of ancient Egypt, where a scribe sits cross-legged in a cool stone office, recording grain shipments while laborers outside sweat under an unforgiving sun. His belly is soft. His arms have never lifted anything heavier than a reed pen. And on the tomb walls being carved to commemorate men like him, artists give him rolls at the waist, a double chin, flesh that folds, while the farmers and soldiers around him are drawn lean, muscled, almost skeletal by comparison. This wasn't mockery. Egyptologists studying these reliefs believe it was the opposite. A soft, heavy body was a status symbol so powerful that men wanted it carved permanently into their own tombs, staring out at eternity, proof that they had escaped the one thing that defined everyone else's life: hunger. But that raises an uncomfortable question. Was this just artistic flattery? Or were these bodies real? In 2009, a team of cardiologists ran CT scans on dozens of Egyptian mummies pulled from museum collections across the world, in a project that became known as the Horus Study. They expected clean, healthy arteries. After all, these were people with no fast food, no cigarettes, no cars. Instead, nearly half showed calcified plaque, the exact fingerprint of a disease we associate today with obesity, inactivity, modern excess. Some of these bodies belonged to priests who had spent decades doing nothing more strenuous than walking temple corridors and eating whatever surplus grain the empire could produce. Their arteries told a story their linen wrappings never could. And then the story takes its strangest turn yet, one that has nothing to do with mummies or scans, and everything to do with a single sentence written by hand over 2,000 years ago. The writer was a Greek physician, working around 400 BCE, a man history remembers as the father of modern medicine. Among his surviving medical observations is a line that reads almost like a warning label ripped out of a modern hospital pamphlet. Sudden death, he wrote, happens more often to those who are naturally fat than to those who are lean. Sit with that for a moment. A doctor in ancient Greece was documenting corpulence-related sudden death as a recognized medical danger, more than 2,000 years before the word obesity was ever coined. He wasn't guessing. He was describing patients he had actually treated and lost, which means the picture snaps into focus, and it isn't the picture you'd expect. Ancient human bodies were absolutely capable of becoming obese. The biology was always there, fully loaded, waiting for the right conditions. What almost no one had, for nearly 200,000 years of human existence, was the opportunity. Only kings, priests, high officials, and the rare wealthy merchant ever ate enough, consistently enough, without physical labor to burn it away. To reach the size a Greek doctor felt compelled to write a warning about. And that's the twist that quietly rewrites everything you thought you understood about this story. We've been taught to see obesity as something modern civilization invented, a punishment for fast food, desk jobs, and vending machines. It isn't new at all. It's ancient. What's new is how common it's become. Civilization didn't create the vulnerability hiding inside human biology. It simply tore down the wall of scarcity that used to keep almost everyone locked outside of it. For 200,000 years, the human body carried a survival tool forged by famine: store everything, release nothing, prepare for a hunger that might arrive tomorrow. Then, in a sliver of evolutionary time too short to register, food became cheap, constant, and effortless. The thrifty body never got the memo. It didn't adapt. It didn't relax. It's still running the exact same program it ran on the tundra 25,000 years ago, bracing for a famine that, for most of us, is never coming again. Which brings the story home, back to that small stone woman who sat silent in an Austrian hillside for 25,000 years before anyone found her. She likely wasn't a warning when she was carved. She was probably a celebration, proof, shaped in rock by careful hands, that a body had beaten hunger and won, in a world where almost no one ever got the chance to win that fight. But carried into our world, a world of supermarkets, drive-thrus, and a species that no longer has to fear the next winter, she becomes something else entirely. Not a monument to survival anymore, but a quiet message traveling 25,000 years to reach us, describing exactly how easily the thing that once saved our species could, given enough abundance, become the very thing it now has to survive.